day today, a few jobs, and then I'll hopefully get to watch some New South Wales Cup, Jersey Flegg and Ron Massey for the rest of the weekend. I think Harvey Norman's women's are playing as well, so we'll get to see them going around. So, look, a lot of people were misled into thinking we were playing well in that first half. Yes, we definitely had some good moments, and our defence and pressure on Adam Reynolds and their backs, outside backs, was really good. I really felt we struggled to manage their forwards for the entire 80 minutes, especially Willison, Piakura. They were pretty sensational, to be honest. They were the best two forwards on the field. Jake Turpin, while he was on for the first 25 minutes, was definitely one that proved a lot of the doubters wrong. Many will ask why he wasn't brought back on. It comes down to fitness and energy, people. You got a player who's hardly played any games in the last 2 years at any level. Comes off the bench, tries too hard in the Dolphins game to make a difference, and then goes back to New South Wales Cups, played pretty well. Cops a HIA pretty early, so he doesn't get any residual fitness out of that. Has to take a couple of weeks off, and then we've got this game, in which he's obviously trained hard for, and he was sensational in the first 25 minutes of our match, was Jake Turpin. And for all the people who in their mind were like, oh, surely not Turpin, which is literally 90% of the fan base, I want you to really have a look at it. I said it in the podcast a lot. Ask why are we putting this player there? And the answer is not going to be because the coach is a dickhead or because there's favourites or any of these rhetorics. They're trying to get miles into the legs of a lot of players in our team for depth reasons. When the whips start cracking, we're in a really fortunate spot to be able to risk playing some players that are a bit underdone, like your Jake Turpin. Sam Hughes is still underdone. He was lucky that we got to sort of hold possession and give him those extra minutes on the field. Harry Hayes, our young guys are starting to feel the pitch, which is exactly what happens when you got young people in their first and second year of NRL. Doesn't matter how fit they are, they're carrying bumps and bruises, and they've got to, this is what shits me about the media, and especially ex-commentators, because they know all this. They know all this sort of stuff, but they're not going to talk about it because they not in great depth, because it just doesn't make good viewing. I can sit here and play the outrage card. I can play the outrage card and be outraged about all the stuff that everyone's talking about every time we lose, in our passion and in our emotion and how we see the game of footy. And that's going to get people a lot of views and a lot of likes and whatever fucking else. I'm not here for that. I'm here to give you my analysis and give you my opinions on what's going on in the game. My thoughts was that was our worst performance over 80 minutes in the whole season. And just because the coach comes out and says he was pretty happy with our first 60 minutes, well, there's two sort of sides to that. He would have been very happy to have an 18 lead after 60 minutes, knowing that he was taking some risks in the game, trying to get some minutes into a few players so that we're in a better position when the whips are cracking. That's one of the main things. Ensuring that you've got the right towards the end of the year. And why is it that in Origin time we're seeing the biggest winners of the season happening in this time. It's normal. We should never have been $1.30 to win that game. Obviously, when Jesse Arthur's come out and Kobe Jensen, that should have made things a little bit easier for us, and I'm sure it did. But look, guys, Galvin needs time in that role, under these conditions, trying to ask questions, making mistakes, learning what he can and can't do. It's all part of buying a 19-year-old that you want to develop into a top-class ball player over the next 3 years. And the Bulldogs will do that. Toby Sexton, I thought, had a really good first half. And I felt that they asked questions a lot. Again, the choice between kick, run and pass, there were a lot of, in hindsight, wrong choices, but that happens sometimes. I felt the Broncos' commitment in defence was absolutely spot on. They'd only conceded one line break until that 60th minute. I felt that they obviously lacked in some areas, and their intensity with the ball was affected by our intensity without it. But we struggled to get their middles, and I think they really planned well for our game. Josh Curran, they really did their work on him. He's skipping into the line. They're able to meet him at different points, the way that they combined to put our fellas, to drive our players back, and also to prevent us doing that to them. We really struggled against Penrith. At least 50% of the tackles we did, they were getting driven back for 80 minutes almost. Against the Broncos, we struggled to do it once a set. And that's because whilst our pressure was good and our line speed was good and we had all that possession, which enabled us to get the lead that we got through fatigue, yet again, it's a simple thing that's happened since the Souths games, guys. It's a simple thing. This team has had a bit of a mindset change, and it comes through a bit of immaturity. A lot of young people in the team where they feel that they can go out there and win the game as soon as they've asserted their possession dominance and field position dominance. They think things are going to happen like it did in the Parramatta game, where we just ran over the top of them when we set the game up. We've set all these games up really well. Even the Penrith game at 6-2, Ciraldo, I feel, jumped the gun a little bit there. He thought he saw something. He thought he was gonna, he thought that he was going to change the game, and when he brought Galvin on, and the team were gonna roll over the top of the Panthers. And look, they're all lessons for our coach. They're lessons for our team mainly. But as I said, it's not panic stations, because our team has lost by a combined total of 6 points in the last 2 weeks. I know they're the hardest losses to take when you think you can win and you don't get the win. I get that. But the whole thing is that we're in a perfect position to be trying to make sure we've got the right team for the right time of the year. And I think it was essential that they did this. And, like, for example, Blake Wilson could have played last night. Blake Wilson is fit, and we know what we're going to get from Blake Wilson. Anari Tuala, though, he needed some time in that first grade, and he managed to play 80 minutes of NRL footy in a tough battle, a real scrappy game. He made 175 metres. He did a lot of work, and that will make him a lot better for the run. But straight away, people are saying he's too slow. Well, he's not that slow. Playing Montoya and that on different sides of the field, yes, But this is all part of development and contingency. I know people, we've been starved of winning for so long that we feel that every 2 points we have to win it all the time, and we let that one slip. Yes, we did let it slip. The players let it slip. Their mindset let it slip. They made errors trying to be impatient, and then they just started making errors just trying to get up the field. Like, it just becomes such a shit show that just kept compounding on itself. And momentum is so well influenced in the game of rugby league, the way that it's refereed and the rules that are in the game. And that's what TV wants, and that's what it's going to get. And it's helped us in some games, and it's now hindered us in a couple of games. Because when you got momentum, you get the calls. When you don't have momentum, you don't get them. I felt a crucial play that sort of put a real dagger in our hearts was the 6 again call for the Broncos on the 5th tackle. I felt we did a really good set in defence. And we rushed up on that last play, and Adam Reynolds ran the ball, and then they kicked over the top and stuff, and then they were given 6 again because saying we were offside, which was absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I probably won't read too much of the posts, guys, of your chats because I'm driving, but I will answer them or have a look at them at some point later on today. So, but if you want to carry this rhetoric against our club and against a 19-year-old kid, every time we lose, if there's anyone out there thinking about doing that, well, that's great. There's plenty of other podcasts where you can go and feel validated about that. And, you know, it's the same as the Drew Hutchison stuff last year. I continually was trying to let people know that the club was going to bring Toby back about 10 or 11 rounds. They reckon that's how long it was going to take to get his defence right. And his defence has been brilliant ever since. In a way, I feel he defends better than Drew Hutchison now. That wouldn't have happened if he didn't get to do those lessons in New South Wales Cup. Now, I also get that side of the argument when talking about Lachlan Galvin, when people feel that he should have had to have paid his dues in New South Wales Cup first, coming into a team on top of the ladder. I 100% understand that logic. It makes rational logic. I understand it. The one thing I'll ask why is the coach doing it? And I'll tell you, if your answer is anything such as, because they're trying to accommodate Lachlan Galvin, or that, you know, Galvin's going to have a sook, or, you know, it's all about Lachlan Galvin. No, it's not. It's all about having our club in the best shape it can be for when we need to win finals. And these pressure games that have been played in the last couple of weeks, well, last week's was a huge pressure game. I said in the podcast that I did fear there was a chance we could be flat for this. And whilst I felt the effort was there in lots of areas without the ball, again, the Broncos were really well prepared for this game. And, you know, they handed that lead to us, like kicking out on the full. So what I'll say to you is, if the way that we were struggling to get out of our own end, so our back three, obviously on different sides of the field, a new player coming in, Burton playing at centre, it was all a bit of you know, it was going to be something they had to sort of grind their way out of and get a flow. And I felt that they got better, the back three, as the game went on, especially with the ball and bringing stuff out of yardage. But early on, they really struggled. But if Adam Reynolds gets 40-20s and doesn't put those balls out in the full, we may not have even got into a position to get points last night. Like, a lot of when I feel that we did really well again, as I said, with our kick pressure, with our pressure on our edges throughout that first half. There were a couple of signs I was worried about, like where they'll pull back for forward passes. The fact that they were able to make that line break, even if the pass is not forward, You know what I mean? Like, they still make the break, and that come down to poor defence and a poor kick chase. So our kick chase wasn't as good last night. Over 80 minutes. It was a game where we couldn't keep the Broncos in the part of the field that we wanted to, especially in that second half. And they just got the field position from our errors. And eventually we fell apart, which was always going to happen. You know, we could have played Blake Wilson and kept Galvin on the bench. They could have played Lipboy Hopboy instead of Jack Todd, which would have given us a lot more energy, because Lipboy's fit. As far as I know, he's fit and firing. But yet again, they want to have these players like Jack Todd get out there and get a gut buster into them, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes to progress. But he was way off the pace, and you never know, he might have hurt himself real early. I think some people were saying his arm was hurting again, but I think it was more so that he dropped the ball. But we'll see. I could be wrong about that. I've heard nothing about the injury coming out of that. So if he's look, after he made 3 tackles and he looked absolutely gassed, was struggling to get back on side. He'd had 1 run before that, and then he made his last run, and he actually he knocked on the ball, which was sad for Jack. And, you know, he'll need to go back to Cup. I'm not sure if they'll give him another crack next week. But if they do, and if he's fit, I'm sure that he will be better for the run. And we'll get a little bit of residual fitness, even though it was only a very small time in the field. And basically had to hook him, or he was replaced because of his arm was hurting. It was one of the two. Sam Hughes was brought back on, and that tells you something. Like, do you think Serrao is going to... Well, it's sort of come to the point. This is the other thing as well. Bailey Hayward. Hayward's also going to be really battered up and bruised, guys, through what he's having to do as part of his development. They've been starting Bailey. Turpin was used really well last night. Bailey comes on, and really our interchange, which I felt looked fantastic on paper, essentially they weren't able to get the job done last night. Harry Hayes tried his heart out. He was getting met early at the contact. He was struggling to make meters, but he kept on hitting it up. Got pretty tired in his second stint. Did a lot of work. Missed a lot of tackles, and that just showed, like, that Willison is an absolute beast. He's going to be on huge money. They're going to have to, I don't know what the Broncos are going to do to keep all these players, but and Piakura, I've been talking him up for a very, very long time, and that's one of the things which was an absolute disgrace last night. I don't know if it's why we lost the game. Well, it's not, but he was knocked out. His eyes were rolling in his head for 5 seconds, even trying to run back. You could see his eyes were absolutely crazy. Now, the DSF thing, he had nothing like that with his eyes. They call him a Cat 1 last week, yet Piakura gets called a Cat 2. Unbelievable. And he's had plenty of head knocks, Piakura. That was a Category 1 every day of the week. And that tells me that there's something in what happens in that room which is influenced by someone else, because I cannot for the life of me, with all the technology they've got and with what they can see, these doctors, how one can sit there and say that Daniel Saluka Fafita was a Category 1 and Brendan Piakura was a Category 2. When we all know who was the worst out of it. And literally the next 2 plays happened after DSF because they didn't stop the game, and he made the next 2 tackles and smashed the Panthers players. He was coherent and he shouldn't have been a Category 1, in my opinion. And I believe that Piakura, obviously though, like, he's come on and played the absolute house down. He ran hard, he tackled hard, he was better than Viliami kick out, in my opinion, in the areas of the game where we need them to be good. I saw kick out trying to put some big shots on Piakura, trying to win back dominance, and he got a couple of hits on him, which was fantastic. But he'll know that he lost that battle. You know when you win and lose a battle, like, you don't lie to yourself. And if you are lying to yourself, you're a fool. We lost that battle last night, but I believe we'll win the war. If that war comes to a head this season with a grand final, you know, I think we win a semi-final. We've made good progress. If we play well in our semi-finals, depending on our opposition, we've made good progress. I know it fucking sucks when you want to win a comp, when you want to win every game, and you feel you've got the team that can do it. But as most good rugby league people understand, you've got to fucking play for 27 rounds, and this period through Origin is always tough on teams, especially a team made up of players which the majority of our fan base believed were a bunch of hatchet jobs, which they were, unwanted players. Even our stars didn't get offers from any other club, okay? The likes of Critter, Kick Out. Their clubs basically couldn't keep them due to the salary cap. They didn't care about Salmon. No one cared about Hutchison. No one cared about Sexton. No one cared. They were happy to let Curran go from the Warriors, even though, you know, the fan base loved him. Okay? Kurt Mann, you know, they weren't going to fight tooth and nail to keep Kurt Mann at Newcastle. So people are saying we're trying to buy a premiership. We've done it on kids that not many fans knew about, and many fans, including myself, have been surprised by their progression. This isn't an excuse. These are just absolute facts. And our club in the last 2 years has absolutely taken huge steps. We just played the grand finalists from 2023, who there was a split hair between them. You know, those two teams had really good seasons in 2023. I don't care what happened last year. You're talking about a club and a roster that's got the pick of the bunch in the Broncos, who Madge Maguire quits New South Wales. You know why? Because the roster was already built. And in his mind, he's like, I just need to get a couple of hard workers in there and get a work ethic into them, and I'll take them to the promised land. He's got no doubt that's going to happen, and many people agreed. I have my doubts still. But they showed a lot of courage, that Broncos side, and they should be congratulated. As much as I hate their guts, and I wish that they all fucking, you know, got sick. That's about the nastiest thing I can say. But look, they did well. They did well to win that match, and they asked questions late in the game, and they kept some players fresh. Like their centres didn't do too much work during the game, and then they had some punch late. But build off, they're two big boys were the best players on the field, and they deserve to win. We didn't deserve to win that match. I felt we could have and should have, but we didn't deserve it. And I'm hoping 100% that the boys learn to just keep going through their paces, keep punishing sides with possession through the middle and field position. And if they keep doing that, especially when we get all our players back, they will win some of these high pressure games. They just got to win one or two on the run home against the likes of a Melbourne, or, you know, go really close to beating Melbourne or Penrith. Make sure they beat the Dragons and Roosters. Make sure they beat Manly. You know, those are the games where we really have to take those forward steps after setting the season up really well, doing a great job trying to rotate players and get some players in there and get some miles in their legs for our depth. so that they can come into our team seamlessly when there's an issue. To have Galvin there ready to go at crunch time. He may not even make the squad by the time we get to that time of the year, but to have him ready if Toby or Burton gets injured, for him to be able to come in and to have learnt some really important lessons in some high pressure games. And I think you don't learn as much from the wins as you do from the losses. Okay? So stick with his side, don't panic. Don't sit there and, if you want to sit there and hang shit on the coach and the club and make it all about Galvin, a 19-year-old, like, that's your prerogative, but it's absolute rubbish. Okay? Buzz has already posted a fucking article sort of pointing to the dissension in the club and that we're falling apart. Like, this is exactly what they wanted. They wanted us to either fall apart or to go out there and look like a premiership threat for that's what the media want. Okay? And they were banking on the fact that we were going to fall apart, knowing that we've come from a long way down, knowing that they all doubted our forward pack, they all doubted our roster, they doubt our spine, and they want to make sure that, but instead of that, they're going to make out like we were an indestructible force that was only killed because we brought in Lachlan Galvin. And if people want to go and spread that around and start attacking the kid and being really fucking shit about just because you can't handle losing, well, that's going to suck. I have no doubt this kid is a competitive kid. I have no doubt he's probably got some immaturity. I have no doubt that some of the stuff would have been true and some of it definitely would have been made up when talking about him. But he's going to be made. Coming to Canterbury will make or break this kid. So he's going to be given every opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Move on. Go to the next one. It's the way it is. We're a club. Club first, team second, individual third. But we don't have to be an arsehole to players just because they have a bad game or if things don't go the way we want it to go. Look, imagine if the coach listened to all the fans about Jake Turpin last night. He come out there for 25 minutes. He was spent afterwards. He was absolutely spent. Hopefully not injured again. But he was an absolute animal out there against his old side. And I sat there arguing with people about it all fucking week. Just trying to give him an insight as to why he would be playing and why there was a big chance he will be named. So basically they've gone out and they did what I thought they would do and put Burton in the centres. I thought Rennie Karma would get a go because Tuala, in my opinion, was sort of struggling in Cup. But then when I looked at it and reflected on it, there's good reasons why he's struggled in Cup. He's had no fitness and our forwards have been shit. Our forwards haven't got the job done. So it's made it harder on him. Forwards that the fans are saying should be playing first grade aren't right up to it at the moment. They're struggling with being young and dealing with a long season, even in that level. So we're developing kids, we're getting them ready, we're preparing players, we're ensuring that this team's going to be in the best possible shape it can be at the business end of the season. They know they're going to have to go out there and win a few games, and they're going to have to win them ugly, in my opinion. If they strip it back, get their confidence back by getting the 2 points, by knowing that they can just go 80 minutes and go that 80-minute pressure on every team that they're with, including the likes of the Dragons and the Seagulls. Hopefully build some confidence. And then what we'll see is a real, you'll see things we haven't seen that they've been working on all year. And this side will do us proud, I'm sure. And whether that's, make a grand final or make a prelim or make the second week of the finals, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to be proud of them because I know that they are progressing. They're still progressing, and you're always going to have games, which I've always talked about, where you don't play well, where you're a little bit off. And that was the case last night. Missing a player which has gone to being from obscurity to being picked as a starting front rower in Origin. A player that was a discard from the Knights that's turned into one of our best players and now selected to play Queensland. Our captain is under 25 and he's our captain from the centres and considered the best centre in the world. And obviously Jacob Kiraz from the wing, who would have added a lot of punch to our game last night. And if Kiraz plays for us last night, I don't think Burton moves into the centres. So they've made some changes. They went with some calls. They weren't late changes. They practiced all week knowing they were doing that. And I think they had a plan last week that they were bringing in Ari Tuala in this week because they thought that Burton would have probably been 18th man again. And there was a chance they could have lost Kiraz as well because they could see Brian To'o was so injured. So they're my thoughts, guys. I'm almost at work. I'm bitterly disappointed, as everyone is. I hate losing to the Broncos. And, it's just one of those things we have to deal with. But it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It doesn't have to be, NRL 360 are going to have about 37 articles pointing towards dissension and the Lachlan Galvin thing's a failure. And everyone's going to tell Serrato he must choose now. He must choose the player to come in. Serrato will do whatever the fuck he wants. The club will do what they think's in the best interest of the club. And guess what? We all make mistakes and the club will make some mistakes too. And I'm happy to wear that, even if it costs us a premiership. I don't care. Guys, I'm proud to be a member of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs organisation as a member. And the legacy of all of it. And we've won 8 premierships since 1938. Okay? As the Berries and the Bulldogs. You don't win them often. And a mate of mine said you got to make rain while the sun shines or whatever, or make hay while the sun shines or something. I always get these little sayings wrong. And I get that as well. And that's exactly what they're doing, guys. That's what they're trying to do. They believe that, our team believes that they can do something special this year. They know they can go with the big teams. And they know that they're developing their kids to be ready for those crunch games. And to win those crunch games, they're going to need to play at their best. And they're going to need a little bit of luck as well. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. So I'm all in on this side to do a good job, to get to where they got to get. And I'm not going to be sitting there and entertaining this media bullshit that half our fan base want to take on as rhetoric or just believe naturally themselves so that they can have a reason as to why we're losing games. We just lost to the 2023 grand final teams in consecutive weeks by a combined total of 6 points and weren't even at our best. I know that's why it sucks, but it's also a reason to believe that, well, if we can play that poorly at different times and also play that well at different times, imagine what we can do when we get it right. And imagine what we're going to do when we have our best side on the field. And that best side may or may not include Lachlan Galvin, but the coach will know what to do. He's not going to sit there and make it about ego or anything like that, which is basically what people are saying, because we lost. Oh, the coach is just trying to accommodate Lachlan Galvin. He must stop now if we want to win. But Brave, they were on top of the competition, Brave. And now they've got Toby Sexton's leaving. Who else is going to leave because of Lachlan Galvin, Brave? and Isaac Moses. This is the shit. I'll tell you that Isaac Moses documentary is one of the most ridiculous, well put together for an amateur production that's getting big. It's going to go far and wide, but guess what? It's all based on headlines and rhetoric, and there's not many facts in there. So anyway, we can all do that. But have a good day, everyone. The New South Wales Cup's on. Get behind the boys. Hopefully they don't fade out today. There's been a lot of fade outs from our side, and the NRL side had a fade out last night, if you can say that. But guess what? They've shown they can come back. They've shown they can get leads. Now we'll put it all together and get there in the long run. And if we don't, oh well, that sucks. I'll be still cheering for them and supporting them, because one thing I know, none of us fans could do a better fucking job than anyone that's in our club at the moment. And anyone who thinks that should go and apply for a role somewhere. All right, have a good day, people. Thanks for joining in. Sorry for chopped out. Sorry I didn't get to your questions. And I hope you all have a good week. Go New South Wales and Origin. I'll be on the podcast again. I'll probably do a proper review. This one was just driving along, but I'll look at the stats and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and we'll have a chat. Might do that Sunday and then do the big review on the podcast on Tuesday. That's going to be a big podcast. We've got people coming on. We're doing a quiz. We'll talk about State of Origin. There'll be a big preview on the North Queensland game, and you'll get a few people's different thoughts on that as well, which will be interesting. I'm not expecting big things next week either, guys. So I was really worried about this 3-game block. And I'm sort of, if we can scrap a win out of this, it'll be fantastic for our season. Could mean the difference between a top 2 finish and a top 4. But I've got a feeling we win a couple of these games. We're going to have to beat Melbourne and Penrith to make the top 2. So, and obviously win the games we're supposed to win. So it's not going to be easy, but I reckon the boys will get it done, and they'll be a very streamlined team, knowing their pecking order and who's doing what as they head towards the end of the season. So keep the faith, guys, and go the Dogs.